Hello, I'm Anandana Kapur, and today I have the pleasure of being in conversation with two young, talented, and award-winning filmmakers. We have with us today Amartya and Arjun Samantaray. Now, the interesting part is that they are winners of the National Film Challenge, which was organized by the Public Service Broadcasting Trust of India and the Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Winners in the amateur category, each of them has brought a unique film to us in a dark time. Samantaray's film, Khirkya, is a very interesting take. Not only is it an adaptation or an inspiration of a Murakami kind of atmosphere, it is a film about wandering, wondering, and lost love. On the other hand, we have Ray's film, a film which is a compassionate yet observant glance on the absurdities, truths, and beauty of life. Winners in the amateur category, they bring forth a perspective of filmmaking which is of the spirit of today. Anyone can make a film and make a film that touches your heart. Thank you so much, both of you, for being with me today.
Thank you very much for the lovely introductions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My very first question is that both of you have creative backgrounds, isn't it? We have Amartya, who's studying at the Film and Television Institute of Pune, and Arjun has a background in theatre. So you have no dearth of creative ideas. I'm sure there are a million things which you want to translate into cinema or a play or a story. So why these stories now?
So Arjun, go ahead.
You can go.
Okay, all right. For me, I believe that the pandemic had a very visceral impact on my life, and there were a lot of images that kept popping up throughout our country and throughout the world, for that matter. And I felt not exactly out of a sort of social responsibility, but I felt that there was a need for these images or these stories, this time to be archived or recorded somewhere. And I wanted to do it in an observant way. And I felt that all these images inside me, which was also having an effect on my life, I kind of wanted to present that in a cinematic form.
Thank you. How about you, Arjun?
When the pandemic hit and lockdown was announced, everything around us suddenly changed. So I used to wonder in those days that if I make a movie on this situation, what I'm going through, or how I want to tell a story and show the world. So when we found about the PSBT challenge, we got a chance to do just the same. All our lives been confined in four walls, and our only connection to the outside was the window or khirki. We wanted to showcase light side outside of the khirki through the eyes of the protagonist. So that's how it came for me, this film.
Right. Thank you. And I also feel like, Amartya's film, which is titled Portraits 2020, has a kind of like a vignette structure. His cinematographic style is very unique in that, it is very patient and then things unfold. So my question to you, therefore, is that why did you choose that kind of style of looking at your subjects?
Well, firstly, I wanted to try a sort of form which, being a filmmaking student from FTI, there's always a sort of want to explore the art form of cinema. And in mainstream, we are always presented with a guiding narrative. Many call it the hegemony of the narrative even. So I wanted to kind of try a form which wasn't so driven by narrative, but just present a format. In fact, there's this small anecdote. I really like walking the streets of my city. So a lot like Flaneur, I keep observing a lot of events and images just passing me by. And I wanted to kind of make a film perhaps which gave a portrait of my city without really delving into one particular story. So perhaps that is why I chose this sort of form. And I also wanted to be like slightly observant and distant, and not
Right.
like negate myself as a director as much as I could.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's also interesting when you say that, because it reminded me a bit of the Japanese master Ozu, where, you know, his camera also stays and then things unfold, and those are very piercing ways of looking at things. You don't sometimes have to be very close in your takes to reveal a lot of the texture and the psychology. So I think you accomplished that very well. You know, you're saying you're a flaneur. I'm a flaneuse. And when we look at the film that has been made by Arjun, who himself confessed to me that he likes to walk around, and, you know, a lot of his art emerges from these walks that he takes, I find that his camera work and his point of view as a director is really able to bring that alive. So Arjun, I want to say that, and I'm quoting you, wherever you turn, there is a new location, and each location has something beautiful to offer. So could you talk about your technique too?
I see like my camera or the movement, as you have noticed, there are very articulate movement for few scenes. Rest are very still. But I think camera takes the invisible observer for me and for the narrative. So the placement or so-called framing are just there to reinforce or so-called narrative and a flow and show the world. I avoid using camera in ostentatious manner. I see cinema as inherent part of the world's course and narrative. So when the camera moves in some scene, it show more human psychology, how my character, our film character react to uneasy or new situation, which we are not aware of, like the pandemic goes on and everything. Before and how and why it is important for the narrative. That's how my camera and the whole camera technique is all about for my film.
Right. Thank you. And it is quite interesting. And I feel that some of the frames, including just the pun on Khirkya, is the gaze of our time. We have all looked out of the window, looked in through the window.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like the symbol of our time. So it's quite nice that you've captured it. And so I want to, you know, ask you, Amartya, what was, you know, the behind the scenes like? What camera did you shoot on? I'm sure that fellow filmmakers and aspiring filmmakers would be interested in knowing this. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. We shot on Sony FS7, and we stuck mostly to a wider range of lensing, because as you mentioned that my film was mostly vignettes, so every scene was one single shot. So there wasn't. So I wanted the space to also come in. So there was like a wide selection, or wide lensing. And as for the shooting process, it was actually a lot of fun. So it was a pandemic, and it was basically, the film was made on almost a zero budget, like almost the only cost that was there, because the space was my own house, one street outside my house, and the only cost was mostly of food and certain miscellaneous stuff. I made it with my fellow friends and film school colleagues. So it was a fun process because it was mostly all of us young people. And there would be certain funny anecdotes, because there are portions in my film which deal with a bit of absurdity. So I remember there was this one time when there's a sort of weird dance choreography that happens on the top of a terrace, and we were rehearsing that, and my neighbors would be in their daily evening workout regimes, or sort of, you know, running on the terraces, and they would see this young boy and another middle-aged man just dancing in front of the cemetery without any reason. And I thought that probably they thought that these people have gone mad due to the pandemic or something. So we made it with a lot of fun and with a lot of help from friends.
Fantastic. No, I think that's one thing that worked for a lot of us who were fortunate that while we were isolated, we found or rediscovered our communities again, you know, with reduced distances. Maybe somebody's making a film on you. You never know. The two straight men on the rooftop.
100%.
Yeah. And how about you, Arjun? I mean, you know, technical excellence is something a filmmaker always aspires for. Of course, you want the audience ki tali, but you also want the, you know, a critical appreciation for getting the sur perfect. Like, how did you balance it all? What did you do?
sorry, I actually didn't expect that I can get the excellence award. It was like very surprising for me also. Like actually haven't done any much like a lot of things to do film. Like it should have to look like that I have done very lot of things on technical sides, but I have focused on my narrative and what my character needs to show his psychology. To be very honest, like there's this scene, he's standing in market and railway station and everyone walking around passing by him. So those are the small things, because we don't have anything to do much in for like technical side. So except that I don't know actually, to be honestly, to what to say on the technical side.
Yeah, I think you are being very humble, and that's a testament to possibly the kind of grounded artist you are. I think the answer was in your submission that it's the character that dictated everything, and I think
Yeah.
that's exactly how a good film is made. Not because you intellectually balance things out, but because
Mhm.
creatively sort of pick things and intuitively bring it together. And of course, years of perhaps performing for theater would have helped.
Yeah, theater definitely definitely helped me to what I am today, or what I am doing. If if I wasn't be able to do anything if I was not in theater from very early ages of my life. So theater is the my first love. So after that, cinema came.
Right,
So
right.
for me,
So I want to ask both of you, and maybe Arjun, we can go back to you first, and then
yeah.
come back to Amartya. The thing is, what is your most favorite scene in the film? Your personal favorite scene in the film, and why?
There's a scene when the protagonist jumped from the window and he went out to another world. That probably my one of favorite scene, because I see that scene as like escape,
Mm.
and escape is something like very interesting for me, because we tried to escape from anything but we couldn't even from anything. Like, so that scene is probably one of my favorite scene. I think that's very beautiful also. And so that one, and another one is the mm, when he's he was in park waiting for his lover,
Yes.
her lover. So that two scenes are very good, I think.
And it's beautiful with the yellow flowers and
Yeah, yeah.
details in that. Very nicely done. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. How about you, Amartya? What's your
Um,
favorite scene or set of scenes?
my favorite, I'm sure you'll know already what I'm going to say. My favorite is the ending scene of my film, which was one of the first vignettes that had kind of come to my mind. That scene is basically of one of one of the characters that the film deals with is of the three characters of PP clad body removal workers, and one of them has kind of gone off their work for a cigarette break, and he listens to this old Hindi song playing somewhere, and suddenly the song fills the whole frame, and he starts dancing very absurdly,
Right.
and the cemetery is in front of him. So I think that's the favorite for me, because to me it was really a sort of genuine cinematic expression. It doesn't exactly translate. Like I can try, but I can't really explain what that scene is, because there's so much to it. There's death, there's the idea of dancing in front of death, there's the idea of escape, like Arjun is saying, from a profession which is so crazy, where you're dealing with dead bodies every day, and you're having to just wrap them up and take them down like luggage and just cremate them. There's so much, and then there's this beautiful moment that I like from that, which was slightly improvised, slightly told by me, where the character just kind of, as if wiping dirt from his eyes, he stops, like he comes back to reality, and he just walks off. So yeah, that's my favorite scene. But I also like the first scene because it's a lot of fun and craziness. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, and I think by now I would have got all the audiences excited. So this is the perfect plug-in to say that you can watch these films and the wonderful scenes we've just discussed on PSBT's Vimeo channel. Let me remind you about the names. It's Portraits 2020 by Amartya And then we have Khirkya by Arjun. So please look them up. And the first scene that Amartya was describing is actually the scene of a person who is quote unquote insane, but who is really insane is a takeaway that you can get from it. And I think when Arjun was talking about the character jumping and escaping into a new world, I think that's what cinema allows you to do also. It's a frame, you jump out of it, and then you find all sorts of catharsis. So I'm sure you'll be enriched by watching the films. Please do visit them online. And I'm sure they'd love to hear your feedback too. So now I come to, the kind of the closing questions, because the clock is ticking. And my question is about what inspires you as cinema makers? Do you have any cinema gurus? Is there something that is around you that keeps you motivated? Arjun, you want to go?
I don't want to be defined in one or another. I just enjoy what I do, and I want to create a memorable work. The work kind of I want to tell, and it's more like metaphor for me, But I don't want to put any symbol as a reference, because when you do that, you miss the truth in that. And regarding the inspiration and other, cinema has been like, I'll fail badly if I try to define it. It's something like very special and magical for me. Cinema is something, if I start talking, everyone will be go crazy. It's that kind of thing for me. Like from the first time in my like I remember the first time I watched cinema. It was Martin Scorsese cinema, and I was like watching his cinema in open field. There was like used to like open theater in my village. So cinema is like that kind of thing for me. It's very hard to define.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Like I can already see how even the setting itself would be so inspiring.
Thank you.
Welcome. How about you, Amartya?
I completely agree with you, Arjun, that I wouldn't make the mistake of trying to define why or what cinema is. But I would say that ever since growing up a little bit, I believe that this is the only thing that I know how to do. So if I mean, मुझे यही आता है, so there isn't anything else. Like I'm also a musician and an actor, but all of it is kind of related to storytelling. I'm a singer-songwriter. I like telling stories. I've always been interested in telling stories, and I think cinema comes closest to a form which is living. I think it's breathing because of the aspect of time in it, and it keeps changing. Like what Arjun said, a film, it brings people together. A film watched by so many in an open field. My first film was Titanic on the big screen when I was a little child, and just the fact that I am waiting for cinema halls to open up so that I can go and share the experience of being with other people inside a black room. That aspect, and the fact that cinema is actually a living thing, I think that makes me want to try and put my hands in it.
Right. And what about any influences? Anybody who's
influences are a lot. I've been opened up to huge gamut of cinema. Once I've been to since FTII, but one of my masters is Kiarostami, Abbas Kiarostami. I really like Roy Anderson, who has been a big influence by making portraits, because he also has this brilliant style of vignettes.
Yeah.
And being a Bengali, I love Ritik intensity.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. So my final question to the two of you is, where now? So you can answer this either by talking about what you want to do with the film, where you want to take it, or you can possibly look at where the future of filmmaking is. 2 national lockdowns. Are we emerging? Where are we going? What does creativity have in store for it?
There are first I want to tell, there are a lot of stories I want to tell, but apart from that, on pandemic, and it's definitely changed the whole game of filmmaking and the cinema, I believe. Like how we make films and how we see films. I actually don't know, to be honestly. Like it's very difficult to like predict where we are going with the cinema or anything. But I just want to like I feel that we are going okay with cinema as it's changing, and it should has to keep change.
Mm.
And I think we are going good, and we will be fine as time.
Mhm.
That's all.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I think being hopeful is, I think, the disease that all filmmakers are afflicted
Yeah.
with. Till we make
Yeah.
our films and then we become the biggest pessimists. But I would agree. Yes, it is a time where we're changing, and I think the change maybe for the good. I know I
Yeah.
also miss the idea of sharing laughter with an audience in a screen, which
Mhm.
is large, and in a theater which accommodates so many people. But yeah, I think it's allowed us to tap into individual creativity, and now we can reach further. So that's
Yes.
yeah. And how about you, Amartya?
Um, uh, I believe that theaters must be opened, and like even though they've opened a new sort of media for that matter, I don't think OTT is the solution towards the future of cinema. I believe in theaters reopening, but as a filmmaker, and like you said, what I would like to do with my film, let's say portraits, I I would like to encourage people, like there has to be producers coming out of the market to actually produce films which are slightly different from the mainstream or which want to explore ideas, because I don't believe that funds, international or national, like film festival funds, are the only solution for people like us who want to make a certain kind of cinema. They cannot be the only way, because even there's a sort of angle there also, which is their sort of requirement. I believe to connect to the masses, producers have to come up and help filmmakers like us, and then only I suppose people will also enjoy it and stand by us. So I am also, Arjun, I am also, even though I sound a little pessimistic, I'm actually being hopeful of it, that people
Yeah.
will come and help us.
Yes, no, I also believe that filmmakers should be given the opportunity to determine their stage. And while many find expression through the OTT more inclusive, it is true that we have to continue to reinvent the ways in which and places in how these are screened or experimented with, even with extended reality. Now wearing VR sets and watching
Yeah.
films or other kinds. So I think that constantly will change and improve. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I also think what speaking of India specifically, what it requires is the country to start funding cinema again, which is
Right.
stopped on a large scale. And it has produced meaningful and strongly political cinema, which has shaped the future of films in our country. And I think it is required, like, in a big way right now again.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a great note to sort of wrap up this conversation, because I think the National Film Challenge by PSBT and HUR has done precisely that. It's looked at filmmaking from India. It's brought out this amazing talent. And, never wear the tag amateur lightly. I think it's perfect because it means you're creative without any kind of expectation, which is going to tell you how to behave and how not to behave. So, congratulations. I truly hope that your journeys are successful. And everybody, please watch their films on the PSBT Vimeo channel. I've had a great time talking to both of you. It's been a privilege. Thank you.